The beginning of the decline. That's what last month was supposed to be. Heck, I even titled my market update for the month exactly that, beginning of the decline. But boy, what a difference a month can sure make. Economies are starting to reopen, people are getting back to work, and there's a lot more optimism out there right now. So what are we seeing? Well, if you're expecting prices to start declining right away, that hasn't happened. In fact, in some markets, prices are on the way up. Yeah, you heard that right. Some markets in Canada still seeing increases in prices. So this is the June 2020 Canadian real estate market update, now with Halifax included. Hey guys, welcome back to Bald Prairie Real Estate. My name is Matthew Pfeiffer, otherwise known as your favorite bald real estate agent from Regina, Saskatchewan. So if you like being up to date on the Canadian real estate market, or maybe just want to get tips, information, all that kind of stuff, go ahead, smash that subscribe button right now so you don't miss another one of my videos. But you know what the difference between a poorly dressed man on a tricycle and a well-dressed man on a bicycle is? Attire. Looking back to April 2020, what you see is the single largest decline in the number of homes sold in Canadian real estate history. Even hot markets like Vancouver and Toronto, which see massive numbers of homes sold every single month, saw 50 and 60% declines in the number of homes sold that month. And understandably so, people started to get pretty apprehensive and nervous about the future of home values. Maybe the real estate market was going to crash in Canada. We're still not out of the woods yet, but there's an interesting trend, and that is that we're seeing a resurgence of buyers coming back. I talked about this in my Should You Buy Now video. I'm going to put it up right here so you can see my full thoughts. But in that video, I mentioned I expect that buyers will take advantage of these low interest rates and come back to the market faster than sellers are willing to put their houses on the market for sale. As a result, house prices, pretty consistent across Canada, have held flat. In some cases, though, in some markets, prices are on their way up. Speaking of price, when I talk about pricing in Canadian cities, I use what's called the home price index or benchmark price. Now what that does is that tracks price fluctuation up and down. I think it's a more accurate reflection of home prices versus seasonally adjusted or average prices. And there's a great example of this last month from Toronto, where the average price came down 10%. And I had a lot of people who were really worked up in the comments saying, well, of course the real estate market's crashing. It's already down 10% in Toronto. Didn't you see that? Yes, I did. But if you dive a little bit deeper into that stats, you're going to see something really interesting. And that is those very high value homes that would normally come on the market and be sold simply never hit the market. Those sellers didn't want to put their houses in the market. And as such, they weren't available to be sold. And so average price actually came down about 10%. But if you look at the benchmark price for that same month, prices were up just a slight little bit. So that's why I use home price index. Now it's not available in all markets, so in those ones I have to refer to the average price because that's the best metric I can use when we don't have home price index available. Now enough with the technical mumbo jumbo, let's get into the stats and go see what's going on in the Canadian real estate market. Let's start things off in the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the best fans of the CFL, Regina, Saskatchewan, my hometown. Sales in May of 2020 were down about 18% compared to where they were May 2019. So it's 234 homes sold in May 2020 versus 286 homes sold in May of 2019. That's 65% more homes that were sold in April of 2020 though. So we've seen a big surge of buying activity that actually started in the last week of April, pushing through into May. And if you look at the May stats, that last weekend of May, there was about 12 homes that were sold. You add those into those May numbers, because right now they're getting counted as June numbers. They get reported on June 1st, the Monday. That actually closes that gap to about a 10% difference in the number of homes sold. And the number of listings in the market, which has continued to decline all year, was down 22% in a month. We're now down 25% for the year. That's 300 homes less on the market than there were in May of 2019. And because of that, prices starting in January have come up about 5%, but even from April to May, prices on average on the home price index were up 1.5%. So we're starting to see some positive signs in the Regina real estate market, which has been pretty depressed for a number of years. This is good news for sellers looking to get a little more for their money, and for buyers, you've got to get out and get on those good houses because the good ones, they're getting sold pretty quick and there's less ones to look at right now. For the rest of Canada, we'll start out west, where sales in Vancouver were down 44%, but that's a 34% increase from the month before. Listings were also down 33% from last year, but only 6% more homes came on the market last month. As a result, the benchmark price in Vancouver has remained relatively unchanged and now is $1,028,400. Moving out east to Calgary, which has kind of had a double whammy of health restrictions, low commodity prices, and their sales are down 44% compared to last year, but they're up 20% from last month. Listings are down 29%, and their benchmark is down about 2.5%, sitting at $474,000. If you head out to Canada's largest market in Toronto, sales are down 53%, which is an improvement from the 67% where they were in April. Listings are down 53%, and much like Vancouver, their benchmark price is relatively unchanged. Montreal, on the other hand, was on fire. Despite restrictions that wouldn't even allow in-person showings until the middle of the month, their average price continues to rise. They're up 12% for the year. Sales are down 45% from May 2019, but remember in April, their sales were down over 70%. Listings are down 21%, which has created a significant shortage of homes, especially for homes under $1 million. That's what's caused that price to come up as much as it has. Montreal is still a really strong seller's market right now. And for the first time ever, I'm going to finish things off all the way out on the East Coast in the Halifax region. Much like all the other cities in Canada, Halifax is recovering from the impacts of COVID-19, and they had an exceptionally strong 2019. So when you look at these stats, remember that. Sales have started to recover from their lows in April, but they're down from 2019 by about 40%. When you look at 2018 and 2017, sales are only down about 25% from those 2 years. The housing supply in Halifax continues to be constrained, and listings are down 40% as well. That's resulted in their average price being up 7% from last year and up slightly from the month before. Much like Montreal, low inventory has kept prices where they are. When I covered CMHC's report talking between 9 and 18% declines on average house prices in Canada, one thing I mentioned was that the constrained supply of homes in Canada would keep real estate prices relatively strong. And that appears so far to be what's going on. Now, is this just a temporary burst of activity and you're going to see a correction in prices later in the year? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What do I think's happening? This is a typical spring market where you see a push of buyers activity, and those low interest rates have definitely spurred them on. In Regina, Saskatchewan, where we've had prices declining year over year from where the start of the year was to the end of the year was, we still see that push in the beginning of the spring market where prices tend to jump up just a little bit. So what do you guys think? Are we in for a correction later on this year? Let me know in the comments. If you're a first-time home buyer, you're probably got a lot of questions right now, and this video probably hasn't answered all of them. So I got a series of videos, I'm gonna put them up right here, dedicated just to first-time home buyers. If you guys have found value in this content, go ahead, hit that like button. Even better, hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss another one of my videos. If you just want more generic real estate news, or you want maybe seller tips, I've got a series of videos that's more real estate knowledge. I'm gonna put that up right here. You can check that out. That's my June 2020 Canadian real estate market update video. Thanks for watching, everyone.